I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into the gritty, action-packed world of Roger Crossland's Jade Rooster, an Asiatic fleet thriller. This masterful historical crime novel takes readers on a gripping journey through early 20th century Asia, blending naval intrigue, smoldering insurgencies, and razor-sharp dialogue. With the authenticity of a Navy SEAL and award-winning author, Crossland delivers a must-read thriller for fans of maritime history and suspense. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us once again here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Bookside Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Roger, great to have you back on our show. Thank you for joining me here today.
Good to be here, Logan, and Spotlight.
Great to have you on the show. Raymond Chandler is one of my favorite authors. You know, I've read everything he's written. Unfortunately, he didn't write enough, in my opinion. And apparently, you're a fan as well because your dialogue is kind of similar. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration you borrowed from Chandler.
Well, there are two types of hard-boiled uh, mysteries,
Hmm.
and in the classic hard-boiled, the hero does what he does, even though he is in a low position and his life isn't going too well. Uh, but he just has to do it,
Yeah,
and he ends up solving the crime. And at the end of the crime, he hasn't advanced his place in life one iota.
right.
Then there are noir stories, and they're less gritty. Uh,
Mm.
the the hero probably can wear a tux if he wants to, and
Hmm.
never in a hard boiled.
Gotcha.
So I like Chandler, John D. McDonald, Ross McDonald. Uh, they did well with hard boiled, and I was looking to that I wanted a hero who in a lot of sea stories, it's the officers, it's the captain of the ship,
Mm.
and they're the uh, chief protagonist.
Yeah.
But with this series and Hobson, in kicking off the series, Hobson is the lead man, and
Mm.
he is going to surprise people. Later on in the series, he picks up kind of an entourage, though there's at least a senior military man in with him, and I can't say an officer and enlisted man, either one of them would have entourages.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Let's give the folks at home an overview of Jade Rooster and why you set it in the early 20th century Asia.
It's about two Americans, a Navy and petty officer and a shipping agent, and they're drawn into uh, looking for a missing sailing ship and investing uh, for grisly uh, basket uh, items in a whaleboat that belonged to that missing sailing ship.
Mhm.
At the same time, there's smoldering insurgencies in Korea and the Philip Philippines, which backlight USS Pluto. That's Hobson's boat. It's a collier.
Mhm.
Uh, course be it, it Pluto courses between violence, betrayal, and hope. And Hobson is a polyglot petty officer who gets called in to help find this missing ship.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, he's the lone man on the naval totem pole to begin with, and the Navy doesn't really farm out crew members and consultants to civilians. But there is a requirement that the Navy handle things like piracy and slavery, and so they're and the fact that the shipping line, the Royster line, uh, is asking through their senator to find this ship, uh, puts a little bit of pressure on the Navy to come up with somebody to help them. And there are not many American sailors who speak uh, fluent Japanese and Korean both, in addition to English. And uh, it turns out when the shipping agent finds out he's getting uh, Hobson as his assistant investigator, uh, he's not happy. He wants an officer and he wants somebody who can navigate and speak the language. And he finds out that a quartermaster petty officer knows how to navigate, knows a lot about ships and communications. And of course, Hobson, he will soon learn, uh, uh, is streetwise in addition to being a polyglot. And uh, it comes to a realization that the shipping agent Sabatelli may end up with what he wants, which is the location of the ship so it can be salvaged. Now, there are backdrops in can be in a story. Well, instead, this story has overlays. Two overlays, and let me just finish that up, and
Sure.
we can move on to other things. Story overlay one, and overlays, unlike a backdrop, can obscure things, and that they're problems. So these overlays are problems. The deeper Hobson gets into his investigation, the more he realizes things are more serious than originally contemplated, and he must be careful not to reveal his conclusions prematurely. Is he investigating a criminal act or an act of war or both? He realizes whatever he learns may seriously affect either Japan or Korea, two countries in which he has an emotional investment. 4 men's heads in the baskets of a whaleboat means blood has flowed.
Yeah.
Hobson expects more blood will flow at a far greater level. Now, the second overlay, overlay 2, Hobson is a quarterdeck petty officer on the collier USS Pluto. He's one of a small few crewmen responsible for navigation and signal communication on that ship. The black-hulled Pluto delivers coal, the fuel of American warships in the Pacific at this time. It is a back-breaking, dirty affair which creates back-breaking, dirty work for the immaculate white-hulled protected cruiser USS Baltimore. Protected cruisers are at the top of the Asiatic fleet social scale, and colliers are at the bottom of that scale. Colliers everywhere are pariahs, and as a result, tempers flare. With this outlay, I can't say blood will flow, but fists and chairs will fly, and there will be a conclusive and mandatory physical competition between the ships, Pluto and Baltimore.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a great overview. It sets it up well. The beheadings are such a wild part of this story. It really drags you in. Have you envisioned this book as a movie, perhaps?
Oh yes, oh
Yeah.
yes. Right from the outset. Well, I think visually.
Yeah.
My mother was an artist, and I'm always looking at things, and I
Yeah.
think it comes out in my descriptions. Uh, and the initial scene is done just like a movie.
Yeah.
It's in color,
Mhm.
and there are no people in it at all, just a whaleboat bobbing in the waves. And it next we see the photos, and that's what Hobson sees, black and white photos. And he draws conclusions that indicate this is This is make-see pigeon.
Yeah.
Make-see pigeon. Make-see is pigeon is the business language between two countries with different languages. It's shorthand. It's a
Hmm.
way of make-see means um, it's a show. It's a message. And
Right.
pigeon just means uh, business shortened business language. So there's something about this that makes it strange. Now, if you commit a crime, you don't advertise it. You don't send
Mm.
messages
Right.
on the dead body or the empty safe. You get the heck out. But there's something in this uh, that makes it a message and unusual. Is it criminal or is it uh, uh, wartime psychological warfare? That's one of the many puzzles.
Absolutely. Also intriguing about your book are the real life locations you use, such as Yokohama and Shanghai. Tell us a little bit about those locations, why you included them, and why they're central to the story.
Well, uh, they're the ports. They're busy
Mhm.
ports. In Yokohama, there happens to be a hospital, a U.S. Navy hospital. It surprised me to learn, and it was there at the time. And when they pick up after the drifting whaleboat, they find another boat with passengers in it, and they're from the Jade Rooster too. And they're immediately taken to a hospital where there are Americans. And uh, we get some identification of the four heads, the three Caucasians and one Asian. And uh, instead of volunteering a lot of information, a lot of the people picked up are evasive and actually won't even stay at the hospital.
Mm.
They disappear. So there's it isn't a cut and dried crime. It must be part of a something larger, something continuing, and the passengers know more than they'll initially tell you. And so Sabatelli and uh, Hobson have to chase them down in different parts of Japan. And we start learning that the Japanese may know a little more than they're telling the Americans.
Excellent.
So the plot thickens, to
Absolutely.
coin a
This
phrase.
book is part of something larger as well. It's part of a series, correct?
That's correct. That's the correct.
How many
It's
books are in the series, and what's the first book?
Well, this is the first book.
Okay.
And the second book is the Abalone Ukulele, and the third is under construction right now. I spent the last uh, my New Year's Day revising and drafting.
Mm.
But it's a very interesting period. It's the end of the U.S. naval renaissance.
Mm.
The U.S. Navy after the Civil War uh, was in the doldrums.
Hmm.
And Teddy Roosevelt comes along, and from 1890 to 1914 is considered the naval renaissance. And what's happening at this time is technology and resources suddenly make the U.S. a global power that Britain had, by far and away in the 19th century, has more ships than probably all the other navies combined. But they're sailing ships, and sailing ships are rapidly becoming obsolete, and steel ships are what are the new thing to have in defense. And Germany, America, and Japan are starting to make their own steel so they can build the guns that are far more technically advanced than the old cannons, and they can build ships out of steel, which is better than ironclads.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we can catch up quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, so and a lot of things are happening. Nobody's expecting war in Europe because all the heads, all the monarchs are related to each other. They should get along, right?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't quite go that way.
Exactly. And that's what makes for a good story or a great story. This is a great story. It's the beginning of a wonderful series. Roger Crossland's Jade Rooster, an Asiatic fleet thriller. It is a masterful historical crime novel that takes readers on a gripping journey through early 20th century Asia, blending naval intrigue, smoldering insurgencies, and razor sharp dialogue. You will love it. You'll be sorry when the book ends. You'll be glad that there's a sequel and a third part as well. Roger, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
I'm glad to join in all this. And if there's one thing I like talking about, it's my books. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I enjoyed talking about your books as well. You're a Renaissance man, as we mentioned last time, a lawyer, an author, a Navy SEAL. You've done it all, and you've written some wonderful books here. They're all encompassing and gripping and thrilling. We love them. Love having you on the show as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.